Yep. Hello all. Welcome to another session of JavaScript. So let me share my screen. So let's have a small recap of what are the things that we have actually understood or we have learned about this respect to JavaScript in the previous session. So in previous session we have seen what are different array methods. We have seen for each. We have seen index of last index of last index of. We have seen include. We have seen what is the use of find index of, find last index of, and we have also seen this filter. Now, in this session, let's try to understand different things where I can say instead of name, transforming arrays. Let's try to understand what is meant by this transforming arrays, what is this is array verification, and also let's try to understand other new data structures that we end up learning in JavaScript, which is known as map and set. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's write our code. So let me create a file. Let me say it's like transforming um, arrays array3.js, right? Let me go ahead and let me see it. So in this or in today's session, the first topic itself is transforming the array or transforming an array. So under this given particular transforming array, what exactly we expect to learn. So from here on, we learn methods that transform and reorder an array. That's the thing, like we'll try to achieve it in this respect to transforming array part. So we have this method known as map. What about this given particular thing known as a map, right? What is about this given particular thing known as a map? So we have a method known as arr.map, like this. It is one of the most useful and oftenly considered while building the applications altogether. What does is it calls the function for each element of the array and returns the array of results. So it would look like this. Let me write a basic syntax. I'll say let result is actually equal to arr.map. Sorry, arr.map. Oh, it's taking auto suggestions. arr.map, where we have this thing of function. Inside it, we have this thing item array, sorry, item index array, this. And here inside that, we say returns the new value instead of item. Yeah, this is how the syntax of this respect to map would look like. It is very much similar that we have already seen this syntax in previous session also. It's pretty straightforward here itself. Now let's me take this thing length. Let's create a array gth. Just so let's say we have something like a, something like b, something like c, for example, and we'll say we'll try to map. We'll try to map. We'll try to map a simple variable like len, not len, but let's try to map it like item, where I'm writing this thing where item dot length. So what does this given particular statement actually mean? This is a parameter. On the right hand side, this is the returned value. This is the thing that it should be returning. So for each of this respective thing, or for each of the respective element in the array, this map function will implement this logic. Will implement with this logic. So at first, item will be a. Item here will be a. Once that a has been assigned to this variable item, then we'll find item dot length. Then we'll return, to be more precise, then we'll return this right hand statement that we have. It will return item dot length, which is nothing but in this case it is 1. Next it goes for item B. Next it goes for item C. So by end, it will give us the result as 1 comma 1 1 comma 1. So this is how this end result would be. Okay. Now let's say consider console log lengths. Now let's run the code. I'll say node array 3.js. You'll have this one particular thing. So this entire thing can be written in another mode. I'll simply write a function where it takes item and I'll say return item dot length. Item dot gth. You'll see the same output. The same output. But anyways, this let's try to focus on understanding about this syntax, arrow function syntax, because whenever you're writing a simple functions like this, arrow functions will be very handy for us. So this is how this map function or map method is used to transform this respective arrays altogether. So it calls function for each of this respective element that is present inside the array and returns the array of result. You'll see array of results. Right. That's about map function. Coming back to this another thing. Um, let me do it. Let me do one thing. Okay. Yeah. Let me do this thing. Yes. So we have this function known as sort, where inside sort we pass a function. So one very important thing we need to understand is the uh, sort, or I can say arr dot sort fn sorts the array in place, changing its element order, changing its element order. So what does this given particular mean is, um, or I'll say it returns. We'll see the example, but fine. It returns the sorted array. It returns the sorted array, but the returned value is usually ignored as array itself is modified. Array itself is modified. So we have this given particular thing. Let's say an array will be saying like 1 comma 2 comma something like 15, and I'll say arr dot just sort, and you'll simply do this thing known as an uh, arr. If you can clearly observe, the elements that are present inside the array are in ascending order, so there is nothing point of sorting this given particular thing furthermore. But if I do this given particular thing, the output will actually um, would be different. The output would be different. So the output is 1, 15, 2. 1, 15, 2. So what does this given particular 1, 15, 2 actually meant? One very important thing, as we have to see, this sort function should sort things, but it is not sorting it. Here, already it is in ascending order, where from small to big order is present, but it just, breaks all of this given particular thing, right? So this sorting, according to our mathematical knowledge, is wrong. But according to this JavaScript knowledge, items are here, items are sorted. Here, items are sorted as strings by default. This is one fundamental important. So whenever this sort function works, it tries to do one very important, which is at the moment converting all of these individual elements into strings, and based upon the strings, it will arrange these elements. Based upon the strings, it will arrange the respective elements. So according to this thing, you can clearly observe 1 is the least one, but you can clearly see 15 and 25. 2, sorry, not 25. 15 and 25. 15 greater than 2 or 15 less than 2. Right? So in this given particular scenario, it's 2 here is also an thing. So as we can clearly see in the string comparison, we always compare the first characters. So the first character in this string formatted 15 is 1 and the first character is 2. So obviously 1 is less than 2. That's why you have this 15 here and 2 is left out here. 2 is left out here. So one very important thing we need to understand is when you don't mention a function inside this sort like this, if you just keep an empty bracket, sorting by default happen in this format where it will be focusing on strings based sorting. But if you want to use your own sorting order, we need to apply some kind of a function. We need to write some kind of a function. We need to write some kind of a function, right? So here in this given particular case, we need to write a function where that function should compare two numbers, two numbers. And based upon that function, our sort function need to be executed. So let me write down this given particular function, function compare a comma b. If a greater than b, return 1. If a double equals to b, return 0. If a less than b, return -1. Return -1. So if the comparison happens between two values, if the first value is greater than second value, I'm returning this. If when comparison happens, if both the values are equal to each other, I'm returning the value. If comparison happened, if the first value is less than second value, I'm returning this value. Why have I written this function like this? Why have I written this entire function like this? So let me cut it. Let me paste it here itself. Now comes to this given particular thing. I want my sort function to be done using this compare function. Using this compare function. Now I need to answer console.log arr. Arr. Now it is still, let's say if it is of 100. I can clearly see this is entirely sorted in ascending order. It is entirely sorted in ascending order. Now let's try to understand how this entire compare function along with this sort has actually worked internally. How it's actually been working. So one very important thing we can understand is here this ARR can be an array of anything. It can be an array of anything. It may contain numbers, strings, objects, or whatever. We have set some items inside of it. Here basically ARR is basically an array, but inside of it we can have any kind of data, but we have some data. We have some random data. Now to sort out this random data, we need an ordering function. We need an ordering function like this. The below thing is known as ordering function, where this ordering function, we have to be very careful with this given particular thing. Ordering function knows how to compare its elements. So the comparison should be taken care by this ordering function. The comparison should be taken care by this given particular ordering function where it knows how exactly on how to compare its elements. So by default, this sort follows one simple strategy which is nothing but string order. String order. Now, whenever you try to implement this thing, this arr.sort with the function method implements generic algorithm by default. We don't need to care how internally works, how this sort works, how this sort actually work internally. It's not our thing. What it does is it walks through us to entire array. It walks through us this entire array, comparing its elements using the provided function. So here sort is one such a thing where it travels through this entire array. But if the sort needs to be successfully done, then comparison should be different. So here sort is kind of a loop that is running on a given particular array, and it follows basic comparison known as string comparison. That's why we have this string comparison, due to which we have output like this. But we don't want that string comparison. We want here, as the data is in numbers format, we want this numbers data to be compared. That's why I have written a statement like this, or I have written a function like this. So this sort function will walk through the entire array, and while it's going, it execute this function. It execute this function and reorder them. So one very important thing we need to understand is whenever you're dealing with sort, always remember this compare functions or this ordering functions are must and should. Must and should. Without this ordering function, that's it. You're done. You're done. You're done. So this is how the sort will actually be working about. Now, give me a minute. Uh, right. Now, this comparison function may return any number. See, in this given particular thing, I have written 1, 0, minus 1. Why? It is because whenever your sort function, whenever this compare function returns something, whenever this compare function returns something, let's say if it is written a positive number, this sort function will understand, okay, that the left hand side value is greater. That's why it swaps the place. It swaps the place. When both the values, when this compare function returns the 0 and it is taken by this sort function, it is taken by this sort function, then it doesn't make any kind of a swaps. The sort function doesn't make any kind of a places swap. But if it has returned with this minus 1, then sort function, upon seeing this minus 1, what does it actually do is it takes a and b and try to swap their roles and try to swap the roles. By default, when it is following ascending order, if the order is completely clear, for example here, let's take it, a is something like 1, b is something like 100. Now here 1 less than 100 according to this compare function, so this returns minus 1. Whenever this sort function receives this given particular thing known as a minus 1, it doesn't do the swapping. It doesn't do the swapping. Whenever it receives 0, for example, whenever it receives 0, leave these things. Whenever it receives this 0, it doesn't swap. But whenever it receives a positive one, this sort thing or sort function will try to swap the places. Will try to swap the places. That's how this entire thing actually works. Right, right. So, uh, whenever you are writing this given particular sort function, or whenever you're writing an ordering function, always try to write it in a format of arrow functions. Always try to write it in the format of arrow functions altogether. This is about sorting. So we'll have this thing known as an reverse. So we have a method known as reverse, where this reverses the order of elements in array. This returns, for example, if we say let arr is equal to some array 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5, and if you say arr dot reverse and you mention reverse like this, and you say console dot log arr, you'll see this entire thing is reverse. This entire thing is got reverse. And this also written, this return statement also it also returns the array arr after reversal. After reversal. So if I say let reversed arr is equal to this, instead of this, I'll say reversed arr. And it clearly says. So this reverse will do that given particular thing. That's how this reverse function actually works. Now coming back to this another method, we have something known as split and join. We have something known as split and join. What does this given particular split and join actually does? So um, to explain this thing, let's take a situation from the real life. Let's say we are exactly writing a message in a message app, in messaging app altogether. The person enters comma delimited list of receivers. For example, the person entered something like Nitin, Akhil, Sampath. So here we can clearly see this comma, which is nothing but a delimiter operator. So here we have received this list of list, delimited list. But for us, an array of names would be much more comfortable than single string, right? So whenever a person who is writing the message and the person enters comma for a list of receivers like Nitin, comma Akhil, comma Sampath. So instead of having this as an entire single string, if we have this entire thing into a one single array, then it is very comfortable for us to manipulate the data. So that's why we have this given particular thing, or we have this thing known as str dot split and say delim. So this method, yeah, sorry, this method does exactly exactly that, where it splits the string into array by given delim. Let's take an example. Let's say let names is equal to something like, in a single string we have Nitin, Akhil, Sampath is present. I'll say let arr is equal to names dot split. This is the delimiter. This is the delimiter. This is the delimiter. I just want to remove these comma and space, comma and space. This comma and space, this comma and space. I just want to split it. I just want to split it. And I'll say for let name of arr. I'll say console.log. Let it be something like this. Message to so and so person. It's a name. I can clearly see message to Nathan, a message to Akhil, a message to Sampath. So now if you want me to do one thing like console.log of ARR, this is the first fundamental thing I just missed to you. I can clearly see this entire string is now being splitted based upon this delimiter. So we have this comma and space that need to be removed between each string. Sorry, between each word. Between each word. This is the delimiter. We need to. Sorry, this is the limiter. Delimited list of receivers. So we have to remove this entire comma thing. Comma space. Comma space. If I have this only comma, you'll still see the space is available. The space is available. So we need to remove this given particular thing. Now coming back to this given particular thing, here the split method, whatever we have did the split method as optional second. Here we have given one argument in split method, but there is an optional second numeric argument. Like let's say if I mention something like uh, 3, if I mention something like 3, so it represents that whatever string we have, that we are actually converting it into array using split, and the array size should be 3. So this numeric second, I mean the second numeric argument, where it is a limit of array length. If it is provided, then extra elements will be ignored. For example, Sampath and say Vishwa. I'm clearly mentioning I just want to split this entire string with the delimited receivers to convert it into an array, and the array size should be 3. If that's the case, you'll see it. The array size is 3 and we have only 3 messages. If it has 4, if the array size is 4, I can clearly see we have 4 elements now. We have 4 elements now. That's what we actually do it. Even for example, in this case we have seen, let's take a simple case. Uh, let's take a simple case of understanding split. I'll say let str is equal to some test like this. I'll simply say const str dot split. Okay, listen now this thing. Now I want to split using this delimiter. This entire thing is being split. Now here also we want to split each of this one single element, each of the entire string into this using commas. That's what this delimiters is actually being used. So we use it and we break it and we convert it into a single format of array. This was this as simple as that. Now, another important thing we need to understand here is let's say if you want to join, let's say we have this given particular test. Let me copy the same thing. Let me keep it like this. I'll simply say let ARR is equal to something like this. ARR equal to something like this. And if I want to combine all of these array elements into one string, I'll say str is equal to something like ARR dot join. ARR dot join, where I'll say something this, I mean, this. Now let's say what exactly is stored inside here. So now if I say, you can clearly see this is a delimiter that is exactly being used. We exactly try to do it. We exactly try to do it. So instead of this, let's keep as comma to be more precise. I can see test. If you don't mention anything and if you run the code, you'll see this is entire string. If you don't mention delimiter, this is how this output would be. If you mention any kind of a delimiter like question mark, for example, run, you'll see T question mark, E question mark, S question mark, T question mark. So that's how this entire delimiter concept will actually be working in with the context of arrays, specifically the arrays part. So now we have this one thing. Hmm, give me a minute. Give me a minute. Right. Now, oh, sorry. Now let's go ahead and understand this one thing, which is known as um, is array. Let's try to understand is array. So arrays do not form a separate language type. Like they are also based on objects. That's what I meant. Because we have different data types like primitives and non-primitives. Non-primitives may we have only objects, but we don't have separate data type like arrays because as we have discussed, arrays are nothing but special kind of an objects. So in this respective case, so when I use this type of doesn't help, type of doesn't help to distinguish a plain object from an array. A plain object from an array. So for example, let me do a simple console log. If I say console log type of this braxis, and if I have this console log where it is type of with this array, you'll see both the outputs as object and object, object and object. But arrays are used so often that there is a special method for it. That there is a special method for it where it returns the value. That special method will returns the value true if whatever value that has passed into the special method is array. Otherwise, it is false. To be more precise, I'll say console.log. I'll say array dot is array. This. So here we have a method known as is array for this respect to constructor function array. Whenever you pass this value an object, it will check whether this passed value is an object or an array. Similarly, let's try to do it for array dot is array, and we have this array, and we have this array. Now run the code. You see this thing is false because the value that we are passing to this method is array is object. That's why it is false. But here the value that we are actually passing to this is array is actually the array itself. That's why we got this result as true. So this is how about this entire thing of map, I mean array dot 3js. So this array things specifically we have discussed about this thing transforming arrays and array of checking whether this array is array or not. That's what this given particular array is. So with this, we are done with this given particular array. Now, one topic that is left for this given particular session to finish is nothing but map and set. So these are two different data types where we try to understand these two different data types here in itself. So for that, let me create a file. I'll say map and set. I say map set.js to be more precise. This is a new file. This is a new file. So let's go forward and let's try to understand what is this map, what is meant by this set altogether. Right. Yeah. Till now we have learned about the following like complex data structures. If I want to reiterate what are the complex data structures that we have learned so far, objects are actually one and arrays are another. So objects are used to store key value pairs, like storing keyed collection. Arrays are used, on the other hand, to actually store ordered collection. Ordered collection. So objects are helps us to store key value pairs. Arrays are used to store ordered collection. But these two are not enough for real life. Like we might have some different cases where in such different cases, arrays and objects might not satisfy that need. Right? So in that span, let me do it. Uh, in that span, uh, we have this given particular set known as map and set. Now, what is meant by map? Let's focus on first thing known as map. Map is nothing but is a collection of key data items, like object, just like object, just like an object. But the main difference is that, but the main difference is that map allows keys of any type because when you are creating an object and the properties inside that object, the properties should always be either string or should be some other things or should be some other thing. It should be either string or should be symbol. That's what we have understood. So, but specifically when we are dealing with the map itself, where here methods and properties can be any other thing, can be any other thing. It's of this user's choice, can be of user's choice altogether. So I can say that let me say that methods and properties are for a given particular map. We can have new map. So for this, it helps us to create a map, map data structure, map dot set. We'll mention key value pairs because it is also key value pair. So it is stores value by key. Map dot get key, where this returns the value by key. It returns undefined if key doesn't exist. See, it's completely, it's like we have this entire thing in the same thing in object. That's what this thing is. As key, what does it do is returns true if key exists, returns false otherwise. Map dot delete removes the element, like the key value pair I'm talking about. Key value pair by the key. Map dot clear. We have these things where this removes everything from the map, and we have map dot size. This is itself is a property, returns current element count in map. These are the respective things. For example, let's try to implement the same thing. Let's say let map is equal to new map. Using constructor function we are creating maps. So map dot set, I'll say it could be of 1, the key should be of 1, and the value should be of this thing. So a string key is being created. We say map dot set, I can have this thing str2 a number key, a number key. And also if I say map dot set, we have this true and it's a bool1, a boolean key, a boolean key. So if you can clearly observe that here in map we can have whatever data type of key we want, whatever data type key we want. So similarly if I say console.log, if it would be like map.get 1 console.log map.get 1 console.log map.size. If I run the code, sorry, let's say node mapset.js. I can clearly see I got the value based upon the key. I got the value based upon the key, and the size is 3. And the size is 3. And if I, someone says console.log map, if you want to ever see it, right? This is how this map would look like. This is how this map would look like. If you can clearly observe, a string key is allowed, a numerical key is allowed, a boolean key is also allowed in the map. So here, as unlike objects, keys are not converted into strings. Any type of key is actually possible, right? So this is how this entire thing. You might be asking, instead of using this get and set, why can't we do something like it? You might be asking this one thing, like something like map of some map of this one should be actually equal to 23. Here map of this one is of str2, not that. This value for this key, the value is str2. But can we do this change? Can we do this kind of a change? This is not a right way to use a map. Although this code actually works. Although this code actually works, but it's always better to use set and get when you want to write the data into a map and when you want to read the data from the map altogether. So another important thing is, let me complete it like this. I'll say map can also, sorry, map can also use objects as keys. For example, I'll say let user is equal to name Nathan, name Nathan. and I'll say let visits count map. So for example, I just want to store how many number of users visited my website. So I'll say I'll use this map to store the data, to store the data of users visited our web page. Users visited our web page. Sorry. So we can say visitors counted dot set. We have this thing as a user, comma 123. If I say console dot log, I'll say visitors counted dot get user user. I'll say it's of 123. It's of 123. So here I'm using an object as a key. As a key is one of the most notable and important map features. The same does not count for object. Like string as a key in object is fine, but we cannot use another object as a key in object. We cannot use another object as a key in the object altogether. So this is the unique way or unique thing about this respect to thing known as a map, right? Another important thing I just want to mention is to test the equivalence. Map uses an algorithm known as same value zero. It is roughly the same as strict as using this triple equal to strict equality. But the difference is that nan is considered equal to nan. So nan can be used as key as well. Let me write this one very important statement. For equivalence check, for equivalence check, map uses an algorithm known as same value zero. Same value zero. So it is roughly equals to triple equal to. But the difference is in the algorithm, in the above used algorithm, nan, when we do this nan with this, we got the result as false. But for above algorithm, it would be nan equals to nan. That's a unique algorithm. That's a unique algorithm that is designed for this given particular uh, design for this map chaining altogether. Now, one very important thing we need to understand is let's take this thing. Wait a minute. Fine. Which is nothing but let's try to understand how do we actually iterate over a respect to map. So iteration over a respect to map is also fine, but what we can do is we can also do this chaining. We can also do this respect to thing known as in chaining. So chaining happens in this format for map dot set. I can say map dot set str1. I'll say dot set 1 comma str2. I'll say set true comma bool 2. This entire thing is actually known as map chaining. Map chaining. This is what this entire map would look like about. Now, um, there are few things that are still left for this map and set, which is nothing but how do we iterate over a map? How do we actually use and define set as a given particular entity altogether? So we'll all see that given particular thing in the next session. So in this session, we'll end up this given particular session till this point of where we have understood about map. Let me rename this thing. So we entered map 1.js, map 1.js. We have learned about what are the important things that are present in map. So that's it for this respective session. We'll meet in next session altogether. Thank you all.